Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our August 30th meeting. We haven't had a meeting in a bit, so we'll get started. First of all, we would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Superior Treaty Territory and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. We have approval of agenda tonight. I got Director of Operations report, the Titan GPS dash cam units. I put them under Committee of the Whole, number 17. And the other business, Committee of the Whole, is Thunder Bay District Municipal League Annual Conference. And that's number 2 under other business. And in minutes of previous meetings, instead of June 28th, it should read July 19th. Anybody else got anything for approval?
We had a discussion on the ice schedule.
Yeah, we're it's once we talk about Simcoe.
We'll tie it into
that. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Hearing nothing else, anybody disclosures of interest? Hearing no disclosures of interest, at this point in time, we're going to recess council and we'll have a public meeting regarding committee consent and minor variance. So this is a public hearing. I should go to the side here for these ones. This is a public hearing with respect to the application for minor variance and consent for severance submitted by Richard J. Bussett and Matt Pascusko of Bussett LLP on behalf of Brenda Strasburger, Dennis Spigelli, and Assunta Spigelli. The subject lands consist of the merger of 2 lots, 15 and 13 Kingsway. Consent is sought for a severance to retain both lots. No new development will be involved or created. The parcel to be severed, 15 Kingsway, will have an approximate frontage of 36.30 meters, it's 119.9 feet, an approximate depth of 45.67 meters, 149.84 feet, and an approximate area of 0.17 hectare, 18,298.65 square feet. The parcel to be retained, 13 Kingsway, will have an approximate frontage of 10.97 meters or 35.99 feet. Okay. An approximate depth of 47 or 45.72 meters and an approximate area of 0.44 hectares. The purpose of this variance is for the applicant to seek relief from the section 7.2A of the zoning bylaw. During a concurrent application for consent to sever, it was discovered that the frontage of the retained property did not comply with the zoning bylaw. This application is purely technical in nature in order to comply with the R1 zoning bylaw. No new development is contemplated by way of this variance. Relief is therefore sought as follows for the severed lot from the provisions of the Schreiber zoning bylaw. Residential R1 zone, minimum front yard 15 meters, proposed 10.972 meters. Relief sought 4.0 0.028 meters.
Notice of the public hearing was published in the Terrace-based Schreiber newspaper on August 16, 2022.
We will first hear from the clerk any submissions received in writing. Then we will hear those in support of the application and those opposed to the application, then from the applicant. All those wishing to address the application, please direct their questions through the chair.
Okay. So we'll start with the first question. Is there anyone who does not understand the application?
Is there anyone who does not understand the application?
I don't understand the footage, and the map you had on that was not very clear for us.
Yeah, the what do you say, the footage and the boundaries and all for the map, that isn't the main items that we're going to be really debating. It's more or less we're looking at the consent for the severance to separate what is one property now into two properties. And those properties are referred to by a legal description or a PIN number. And with regard to the only dimension that we're looking at is just the frontage that exists on title for this property, which is currently at 10.972 meters. So we're not redefining or drawing any new boundaries in this circumstance. We're just looking at what's already there at the land registry office.
What frontage are we talking about? The hotel? Brenda's?
This is the frontage for the residential property, and it's the exact frontage that exists today. That same frontage is what we're looking at. A minor variance would have to be passed because the grandfathered status was lost when the properties had combined together, and now because we're severing it to make them the two separate properties again, it would need the minor variance to allow it to have that grandfathered status that it previously had in the past.
Okay.
Okay?
We will now hear any written submissions from the clerk.
So there'll be no written submissions.
Is there anyone here in support of the application?
Is there anything you want to say, Brenda?
No, just nothing's changing. It's everything is just status quo the way it always was. The lines are all the same. It's just because, like you said, the merge of the properties, because of my father owning both of them. Now this is what we have to do to separate them. That's all.
I've seen the
that
line.
other variance portion affects me because I'm the one.
Small house.
I'm the one that owns the small house, and that's it. So that's the section over on that side, Stan. Okay, so
Yep.
it has nothing to do with. Actually, it has nothing to do with Debbie because Debbie owns that now, and it has nothing to do with your end either. It has to do with me and my small house.
Good.
Okay. I'll explain it to you later.
We good?
Next question.
Is there anyone here opposed to the application? We will now hear from the applicant.
Matt, will you be speaking to this?
Yes, I'll speak to it very briefly. Well, first of all, thanks everybody for welcoming me to Schreiber via Zoom. It's very appreciated and quite convenient to visit with all of you. Just to keep it brief, so we're dealing with two separate applications here. We have a consent to sever and also the minor variance. Essentially what we're dealing with here is the original owner of the property. This was Pietro Speziali. So he bought, and I'm sure you've all seen the maps that we presented to you. There's a severed parcel and a retained parcel. The severed parcel is outlined in yellow and the retained parcel is outlined in green. So essentially, Piero bought the retained parcel in 1958. He later bought the adjacent property in 1983, which is now the motel property. There's a rule in the Planning Act which says if you are a single owner of two abutting properties, the properties will merge. And so what happened was these two separate properties became one big property. And so when we were dealing with, we were trying to deal with this so that we can separate the two properties and have them dealt with as individual parcels as they always have been. So in effect right now, they are one big property, but legally we are hoping to have them separated so that they can stay the exact same way as they are now. It's a technical severance so that no new development is contemplated. Nothing is changing in terms of the layout or the dimensions of the property itself. This is just purely technical in nature to ensure that both parcels are actually considered individual and independent parcels and not one big large piece of land. In terms of the variance, it was already touched on before, but there's a small part of the retained land that fronts onto a municipal roadway. And as it was already mentioned, the required frontage is 50 meters. But as long as this property has existed since at least 1958, the frontage on that portion has been 10 meters. And so all we're doing is simply requesting relief from that bylaw, which requires it to be 15 meters. So that's essentially it. We're just trying to sever the parcels and request that one minor variance. And as we already mentioned, there's no new development contemplated, and the properties are going to stay exactly the same as they are now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. The committee will now make their decision regarding the above application.
For application A1 2022, minor variance. Move forward the motion here that the variance is approved as it is considered minor in nature, desirable for the use of the land, and in keeping with the general intent of the Township of Schreiber's official plan and zoning bylaw. No objections were received in response to the public notice. I'll pass this around for each party to sign. And with the decision for application B1 2022, the application for consent for severance, the committee believes that the request to be desirable for the appropriate development and the use of the lands, and believes that the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw are maintained.
I now adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 7:14 p.m. We'll move back into our regular council meeting, so you guys are more than welcome to stay.
I'd love to, but thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was just interested what was going on, that's all.
Bye for now.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
There, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
First time a planner's never had anything to say. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have no delegations for tonight. And now we've moved the question period to now. So have anybody got any questions, or Nathan got any?
No, there are no questions. If anyone does have questions, you can forward them to info@schreiber.ca, to myself as CEO@schreiber.ca. Any questions that you have on this meeting will be stated at our next committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, we'll move right into minutes of previous meetings. Resolution 197-22, moved by Councillor Sales, second by Councillor Stefuric, that the minutes of the council and committee of the whole meeting held July 19th, 2022 be accepted as circulated. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Resolution 198-22, moved by Councillor Stefuric, second by Councillor Morrow, that the minutes of the special council meeting held July 22nd, 2022 be accepted as circulated. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. Committee of the whole recommendations. Resolution 199-22, moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor Stefuric, that the Council of the Township of Schreiber support the resolution of the Township of Brighton and its council as follows. That the Minister of the Solicitor General and the Commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police, as well as the Premier's Office, be requested to make the necessary changes to the Amber Alert system and create a new alert called the Draven Alert, which will protect vulnerable children who have not been abducted but are at high risk of danger, injury, or death, and alert the public that they are missing. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Move on to accounts for payment. Resolution 200-22. Moved by Councillor Stefuric, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that the bank debits paid out of the general bank account in the month of June 2022 in the amount of $46,745.59 be approved and ratified. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Resolution 201-22, moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor Stefuric, that checks issued on the general bank account in the month of July 2022 in the amount of $409,802.39 for general accounts payable be approved and ratified. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Resolution 202-22. Moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor Sales, that the bank debits issued on the general bank account in the month of July 2022 in the amount of $63,856.16 for payroll be approved and ratified. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. No, no unfinished business, so we move on to other business. Resolution 203-22, moved by Councillor Stefuric, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that bylaw 36-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the Township of Schreiber to enter into an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in right of Canada as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, Hobbit's Corner to Schreiber Beach Trail Engineering Feasibility Study be given first, second, third, and final reading and enacted.
So in terms of context here, our application for the Active Transportation Fund was successful. The township will be receiving $50,000 with a 100% funding ratio to determine an engineering study to connect the A6 trail to Schreiber Beach.
All those in favor? Carried. I'll sign the others. Resolution 204-22. Moved by Councillor Stefuric, seconded by Councillor Sales. The council authorized a donation to the Lake Superior District MS chapter in the amount of $100 in the memory of Rita McGraw. All those in favor? Carried. So at this time, we'll move into the committee of the whole portion of the meeting. And first up is the Treasury report, the budget variance report at July 31st, 2022. There's no action required, no recommendations. I assume everybody's had a chance to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? Hearing none, then we'll move on to two, the treasurer report, a council expense and remuneration report January to June 2022. Number 3, Director of Operations report. How long were they here for that water storage overflow pipe time?
2 days.
Okay. And like you say, everything went well with it, and
It went very well. They installed some safeguards on the roof to channel ice and snow away from the pipe. And they reinstalled all the heat trace. So it all looks really good right now.
okay. And Aqua's done their,
We completed flushing and valve exercising Friday.
okay, and are they gonna do a report up on?
I am expecting a report from them and a copy of the, it was a new program that was started as part of the inspection that they had. It was a requirement. So we've created a binder with the records and ongoing basis. So they're supposed to supply me with a copy of that and a report of any hydrants or valves that they found to be not in tip-top operation.
Okay, so I suspect we'll have that next meeting?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm assuming the boiler work here will not happen unless that grant is successful, correct?
It's something that we're trying to align really to make happen. One of the good things is potentially with a more energy efficient boiler, we may be able to recoup the funding that we get. But yeah, the short answer for your question there is it's not something that we put in our budget
Yeah.
this year. So, you know, we could look at potentially financing. Anything you want to add to this, Tammy?
It is a critical situation.
Okay, that was my next
Yes.
question. So like Claude Darling is saying, do this yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But didn't they look at it and do maintenance to it and,
They performed maintenance on both boilers that are in there. The big boiler, they managed to get to light. At this point, it seems to be operating well, but he has no guarantee of how long that's going to be because the parts are very worn and no parts available to replace them.
so I guess my question is, I mean, it's the end of August.
We've got it shut off at the moment for the summer months to try and conserve the parts, so to speak. So when we go to turn on the boiler, Cloud Darling will come down again just to make sure that that happens. But the lighting process is not there and cannot be relied upon. So that's where the danger and critical situation comes from.
So if we have issues, getting money, I mean, and that's the source we wanna go. I mean, we
Absolutely.
do have a grant in for it, but
An
unfortunately, we gotta
application in, yeah.
wait till November.
Yeah.
Are we prepared to try and fire it up and keep going?
We are going to, like I said, have Cloud Darling down to start it up when the weather demands it. Hopefully that goes off well. The reliability of the situation is precarious at best. We'll have to keep a very close eye on the lighting process. If that boiler goes down, we'll have to look at a different plan for heat very quickly or move out of the building, worst case scenario. We're hoping that the furnace takes us through the winter.
And you won't know about the grant till,
November.
November.
If we get the grant in November, Cloud Darling is prepared to move very quickly on it and get us up and running before Christmas. They think they can accomplish the changeover within 3 to 4 weeks of constant work in there.
is the building heated during those three, like how does that work?
We'll have to use space heaters and alternate sources until the work is completed.
Okay.
They would install all of the new boiler system prior to them disconnecting the big boiler. So once the new system is in place, they would be literally ready to switch it over within 8 to 10 hours, they said. And then they would focus on decommissioning the old boiler.
Okay.
Okay.
So like,
Uh,
how immediate of a, I mean, are you gonna, do you wanna wait till November to make a decision, or is it like,
This is something that,
feels like the
we're-
later we go, the,
Yeah. This is something we're, paying close attention to, and, should the, urgency be required to, replace it prior to waiting, that's something that we'd have to do. Like I mentioned before, there may be potential savings with a new, boiler that, could offset the financing we may need if we don't, pursue the route of the grant.
in the meantime, look for sales on space heaters.
The problem, Dave, is you can't start work, enter into a contract prior to getting the grant.
No, yeah, no, I get that,
You should want that.
that's what I mean, like,
Okay.
grants are a coin flip usually, so. Okay.
Okay, talked to you briefly at the start of the meeting about Vector. You may give us an update on, it won't be concrete walls, but
Right, concrete walls has been absolutely unreachable, so I've contacted Vector, and this is an area of their specialty of what they do. He was in town today, looked at the scope of the job. It's not so large that he cannot get to it this year. He thinks there's probably about 2 weeks worth of work there. He is going to give me a formal quote in the coming days this week. And I'll have, I hope, a resolution for you at the next meeting.
perfect. Thank you.
The last item, the getting them to dig up this thing. I guess I'm just confused if, like, the plan said it should be there, why are we getting them to dig it up? I see a reasoning here, but is it not there? Aren't they just following a plan that they were given?
Tammy, do you want to address that one?
I wasn't part of the conversations when the plans were made, obviously. But everything I know about water systems, and to confirm what I really felt in my gut, I called other authorities to discuss the situation without sharing my opinion. And it turns out that a municipal water system should be a closed system, a sealed system. So the pipe draining to ground is definitely a problem, and it may work fine for the first couple of years, but you'd have no way of knowing if that pipe ever got plugged underground. If you're actually draining the water, you need to be able to confirm that you've got the water out of the pipe. And you have to eliminate any possibilities of human error, not closing the curb stop. You could create a siphon in the system if the pressure ever dropped. We don't know what the water table is there in heavy situations. So it really is a safeguard to bring the pipe to the surface.
So is this gonna set the construction back? Like, are they
No,
here?
no.
Have they did it? Like,
Yeah, no,
what's
not at all. They
happening?
have the parts that they need, and they will be doing that in the coming days. We're still on track for paving. I think he said second week of September.
Okay, and then I guess my other question is, how much is this gonna take out of the contingency?
I don't know that yet. I got the approved drawings from the civil engineer, and we're looking at the cost of copper pipe, and the machine's already there, they're gonna dig it up themselves, so it shouldn't be much. They said that it would be very reasonable.
What's reasonable?
I don't know that yet.
Cause like we're looking at other change orders and that contingency is quickly shrinking. I just, if they were gonna do this anyways, why are we making them undo it? It just seems like a waste of money.
Cause it's wrong.
But they said it was okay.
I don't know whose design it was. The civil engineer, once I explained to him what we were, what the issues were, he completely understood and knew exactly what he had to do to change the design of it.
Okay.
Like I said, I wasn't part of the original conversation, so I don't know how it came to be. And when you're looking at a book full of drawings, it would be an easy detail to miss.
Okay. So we'll be getting a change order for that.
Any changes in price should be through a change order process. So we should be getting the PCN and we'll go through the change order process.
Gotcha.
Okay, and also the one last one I had that's not on, I talked to you this week about it briefly, the tree on Galena.
The tree on Galena, our experience with the cemetery tree didn't go well, so we don't want to use that company again. So the issue, I talked to Public Works, and it's very precarious to knock that tree down with all of the overhead wires. So contact has been made with Ontario Hydro, and Hydro One will be in the neighborhood probably within the next week or two, depending on their availability. But what they'll do is lop off the top of the tree, and then Public Works will be able to clean up and knock the rest of the tree down safely.
Yeah, okay, I'd love to see that happen,
That's
for
great.
sure.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we are
thanks.
working on a plan.
Okay. Anybody else got anything for? Okay, Director of Operations, number 4, your Simcoe report.
Recommendation from the Director of Operations that the Council of the Township of Schreiber accept the quote from Simcoe in the amount of $16,453.45 plus applicable taxes for the repair of the ice plant.
Okay, and then we talked.
Sorry, I just have a question about this. Like, when we shut the plant down, did we know this was needing to be done?
Yes, Simcoe was in the neighborhood, and they worked on a quote for this work. They never provided us with the quote. It was something that I caught when I was going through the documents. So I contacted them, and even at that, it took me several weeks to get the quote from them.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused as to why it didn't happen over the summer instead of right before ice season, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible thing,
Okay.
because we can incorporate our travel with other jobs, so we won't have to bear the burden of the entire travel expense.
Okay.
And Tammy looked at the parts
And they're all-
the other day, and it's just a 3 to 5 day.
Yep.
3 to 5 day.
So you just
lead.
never know with things, right? Available
No, you
and
know,
stuff,
for sure.
So,
So right now, it's still insane for
Mhm.
availability.
And
That-
we've made
that'll-
arrangements to lift the motor from the condenser as well, so that's all taken care of and lined up.
okay.
So it'll also be nice to have Simcoe in the neighborhood to start the plant in case of any issues. So it's all gonna work out for timing wise.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the ice schedule. I guess as a user group and sitting at the table, I was a little frustrated at the opening date. I don't remember us saying, I just remember it in passing conversation that this was the day we were kind of looking at. I just don't remember us saying yeah to it. And I just remember, like, at that budget meeting at the beginning of July, recommending a meeting with all the user groups to figure this out. And I believe everyone thought, yeah, that's a great idea. And it didn't happen, and then all the user groups got mad at us. And that's the frustrating part, because it was so preventable. Like, all of this didn't need to happen, because all we had to do was sit down in August, July, whenever, and say, here's what we're thinking, let's work together, let's try to figure it out. So that's where my frustration is as someone sitting here. And then as a user, like, there's zero, like, there was no communication. It was just, this is it, what works, and that's it. So it's just frustrating on both ends. I know I've talked to Mooney about it, and I know you feel the same. But I think, like, the meeting with the user groups is just such a simple thing that should have just happened. Especially after last year, because we had to change the day we closed because we didn't communicate with the user group. So why are we not changing what we're doing to prevent the headache and prevent us getting flack? It didn't make sense to me. I'm just super frustrated about it, to be honest.
I totally agree. I was super frustrated with it yesterday too. We talked about it. I phoned everybody and went and seen Doug. I don't think I never talked
Sorry,
to
I heard about it from Brandon.
Alright. Okay, and we still want to talk to the user groups, but I believe the feeling is we're ready. And Tammy, that's when Tammy had checked on the parts, and so we're ready. I phoned Terrace Bay. I got it right from what's happening there. We're not even with Simcoe anymore, but that's here nor there. I think the feeling of the group, and including Dan, was we can start putting, like, fix it and start the ice plant the week before the long weekend in October, or start the fix on the 11th and start the plant on, that's on a Tuesday, and start the plant on a Friday. Whatever works for Simcoe there, so we would be roughly having the ice by the 24th of October. But I still would like to talk to the user groups.
Yeah.
I know you do, Dave.
Yeah.
I would love to get a meeting set up with them, and even just see if we can do something on the back end of it, if we can, and express them that yeah, we gotta have conversation about this, because there was a lot of anxiety for nothing.
100%. It was totally avoidable. Just like a thought, it seems like the past couple of years it's been like, oh, when's the ice going in? When's the ice going in? Can we not just say the ice in Schreiber will go in on the 3rd week of October every year and be out at this week in March or whatever every year, and then everyone else has to kind of figure out what they got to do, and everyone adjusts, and that way there's no surprise every year. I don't get an email saying, hey, guys, like, does that not, from a budget, from every sort of standpoint, does that not make more sense?
Yeah, from we were looking at, would you say, the different times again that only kind of evolved out of trying to save money from the startup based on the date that Hydro bills us. There are some good dates to start with the ice plant, but from a budgeting perspective, certainly if you want to deal with fixed dates, that's something that we could look at, and we can run an estimate in terms of what it would cost to always meet those dates.
I just don't understand why it's always vastly different by weeks and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because I think, in doing so, there's money savings too, like, really. Maybe we,
So the direction will be ice
Yeah.
October 24th-ish.
Yeah, we're
And a
looking at-
meeting
yeah.
will be scheduled with the user groups to discuss ice out date.
Yeah, right now, the plan is to look at putting in the ice now on the 11th, so we look at those 2 weeks with it planned to be operational by the 24th.
Okay.
and, we're talking with Jody today. They expect their pump on the 15th of September. And they're gonna get it installed right away. And if I understood Jody correctly, they want skates on the ice on the 11th or 12th of October. So we're gonna be about 2 weeks behind them. Not a biggie.
I think also in the future, just because it is like a topic that people are gonna talk to you on the streets about, maybe mayor and council be CC'd in those type of scheduling and that kind of emails,
Yep.
just so no one's blindsided. Like, the only reason I know is because I'm in charge of a user group, right?
Yep.
Otherwise I would've got blindsided.
I got blindsided all weekend.
Yeah, see?
Yep. Certainly in terms of process, there needs to be process improvements with this. I know that this is something that always seems to be sort of blindsided each year.
Yeah.
So definitely we need to look at just improving this process, sticking to a proper process, and definitely getting it better than what it is right now.
And I think it's a pretty simple fix. I really do. I don't think it's rocket
But,
science
you know,
here.
Dave, you gotta think, like, you're dealing with a lot of mechanical issues when it comes to just, oh, we're gonna have the ice in then, you know, it's like, you can't sign a contract for that, because it depends on, like, whether you get this Simco or some other company, or who's available, or you don't even know exactly what you're getting into when they start to do repairs and stuff. Like, there's a lot of variables.
No, I understand
I mean,
that.
I get it, you know, you could say, well, we're gonna do this at that time, you know, it's like, hunting starts on the 15th. Like, it involves a lot of different aspects or whatever.
Yeah, no, I understand it, so I just wanted Nathan to like look at, would it make more sense to have a set third week of the month or whatever? I'm not saying do it, I just look into it and see if it makes sense, if that makes things easier,
Yep.
right?
Well, it's easy enough to set a date, but there's a lot of variables that
You know, that's why he would look
throw
into
that
it.
off.
The only thing is, right, the costs may be difficult, and we've always been looking at those different dates just for, usually it's like scheduling to see when Simcoe is coming. We wanna take advantage of that, and along with the hydro, and I think those are the two main variables. But in terms of providing an estimate, you know, for, what we can certainly do is draft up a report to council for you guys to review, looking into what should be the process, and how we can communicate it, and that way it should be straightforward each year.
Yeah, I mean, this year will be the first normal year in how long, right? And
Yeah.
then figure skating will, like, they have someone in town, they'll
Right.
have weekdays
Yep.
instead of weekends. It'll be the most normal it's ever
Yep.
been for a while.
For a
So you can
while.
kind of use this
Yep.
as an idea of what it would be like, right?
But I mean, definitely, the meeting should happen with them.
Yeah, 100%.
I'd like to be there too. So we'll have to make that happen. Okay. Director of Operations report, security cameras, Lorex security cameras.
Recommendation here that the Township of Schreiber accept the quote from Lorex Technology to supply security camera hardware in the amount of $5,565 plus applicable taxes.
So I just had two things on this. The first is, why so many? For 4 buildings, right? Is it not just on the outside of the buildings at the main doors? Or is it like circling the entire building, like every point of the building?
Each building with its specific configuration demands on how many cameras we're going to put. So for example, at the library, that one's pretty simple, 4 cameras, 4 sides. Public Works, 4 cameras, 4 sides. Municipal building is a little more entailed. There's a lot more sides, doors. So this building, I think, will take something like 11. But we also have cameras on the public space. And again, it's for liability purposes.
Okay. And so so I guess then it's in case someone walks into our building and slips and falls, correct?
For the inside cameras, yes.
No, or I mean like on the steps outside.
Yeah.
Or like walking in somewhere.
Yeah.
So why do we need don't you just need the camera where public is entering and exiting?
Yeah, it's more or less also in high traffic corridors that we have it as well. We do have people coming in throughout the building through the lobby areas. The main thing is that none of these cameras are going to be in employee only areas, or certainly there's not going to be any cameras hovering over anyone's desk. They're all going to be in public or high traffic areas.
Yeah. Okay. The quantity it seemed like a lot. I was just doing like a rough count of where I would put cameras on the buildings on the outside, but there is some going on the inside in the main.
In
Yes.
this building,
Okay.
yes. There's also, we added more to the Discovery Center to cover the
Okay.
artifacts.
Gotcha.
So there was some that went there, and then, what else do we have? The medical center is the other one that we'll put cameras on. I think that one's only getting, we have 4 going there because we have, movement on all 4 sides of the
Okay.
building.
Just again, the exteriors there.
Okay,
Yeah,
no,
yes,
that's
absolutely.
okay.
So the cameras for these buildings are, like, there's a few in the corridors on your public buildings. We know there's cameras in the rec center.
Yep.
I totally understand that,
In the arena.
but the library and stuff they're not hovering over the employees in the workspaces or anything like
Not
the
at all.
stories I'm hearing.
This is
out
not
there.
about employees at all. This is about monitoring.
It's about securing the
public movement
buildings
And security,
and
yeah.
So
the
the
Discovery Center and the
So
whole
we'll
bit.
have some coming down this hall, pointing down this hall to cover, any traffic going into DSAB that might pose a threat to her, and it was all part of the security system as well. Starting with the panic buttons and just, it's about keeping people safe.
And the footage goes to one screen?
No, the footage is, each building has its own NVR, and it's recorded on the NVR.
So it's just recorded on something?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like
but you don't need to have it on or does it just sit
There's
there?
not even a monitor
Yeah,
there.
it just sits there and records
to
it?
the NVR.
And then how long do you keep that?
Depends on how many cameras it's recording, but on the average, 4 cameras would record probably up to 6 days.
Okay. And then you just,
So in the
It's
event
never
something
like a
happens, I would
permanent
go
record.
home.
We have to go, the moment an incident happens, we'll have to go because it'll be continuously overwriting.
okay.
And we know what our insurance rates are.
Cool.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
That all makes sense. I get that. I just didn't think we needed that much. But I didn't know some were going at the Discovery Center.
Yeah, I think we sent 6 over there to cover the artifacts.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, and we also added to the water tower.
Okay.
Now, do you have to put signs up for them cameras?
Yes.
Like video surveillance?
Yeah, I've got some on order.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good with that?
Yep.
Okay, number 6, Director of Operations report. You're busy.
Recommendation here that Schreiber accept, the Council of Township of Schreiber accept the invoice from Stronco to rebuild cylinders for the Volvo G690B grader in the amount of $5,369.59 plus applicable taxes.
Yeah, I mean, we got it, that wasn't budgeted, eh?
No, it was not. Normally they send them to Thunder Bay for regular maintenance. It just so happened that they were all leaking this year and needed to be rebuilt.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's gotta be done, for sure. Everybody's good with that? Director of Operations report on scrubbers.
The recommendation here, the council accept the quote from Thunder Bay Broom in the amount of $17,409.82 plus applicable taxes for the SC351 Advanced Micro Scrubber and the SC2000 Advanced Micro Rider Scrubber.
These are those things I asked you about at the budget meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were all budgeted.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was,
Okay. Okay. Number 9's the economic development, advertising, the budget.
number 8.
I knew that.
It was a test.
Downtown revitalization. Sorry.
Recommendation here from the CED manager that the Township of Schreiber accept the change order from RML in the amount of $27,081.45 plus applicable taxes for electrical connections and upgrades for the power supply to the downtown electrical panel, the installation of a revised soakaway pit, the installation of 2 concrete pads for the downtown park benches, and an additional asphalt paving at the intersection of Winnipeg Street and Scotia Street.
And we've already talked about that one.
Just a little update on the downtown revitalization. The ABC was installing the splash pad components, and they asked whether or not we were going to commission it this year or not, because once they commission it, that's when your warranty starts. We're not going to be using it this year. The weather's already turning too cold. By the time they complete the project, it'll be end of September, so I told them that we would commission it in the spring. That's when they'll come down, commission it, and we'll be using it to determine whether or not we have any warranty issues pop out of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks it's not done this summer, but that makes sense.
They'll pressure the lines with air just to see if there's any leaks, but they'll be on site next spring to commission it.
Totally makes sense, and we're probably gonna have a decision or two to make too, before it opens. Okay. Number 9, advertising budget.
A recommendation here that council increase the 2023 economic development advertising budget. It should be $3,500. So by $3,500 to accept for the Schreiber Discovery Center to be listed as a stamped location under Superior County's Lake Superior Circle Tour Adventure Guide. In order to be eligible as a stamped location, you need to have a full-page advertisement, and the cost for a full-page advertisement is $3,500. Since we did 1 year of operation, I recommend that we continue with our advertising until we really build a critical mass.
You said there was a lot of
Stamps, yeah.
So, and the money is there, and
Yeah, I mean, certainly look at it in terms of an investment. We built this in order to attract visitors, and you'll need to put in this money for advertising in order to maximize the amount of people that you're going to get into that museum.
100%. So that's that's what our ad will look like?
Yes,
On
you
page
can see an example of
59
the ad.
there?
Yep. If we go with the same one, we can redo it, but
Looks good. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, number 10. Schreiber Housing Survey.
just a number of highlights here. 96 respondents answered the survey, distributed between the ages of 20 to 79. In terms of the percentages, I'll just go over those again. Some of the percentages have to just be fine-tuned there, but I'll work on the finalized report. 81% of residents were from Schreiber, 73% preferred ownership housing. Affordable and supportive housing were the most popular non-market housing options selected. In terms of new construction, 47% wanted traditionally constructed homes, 39% were okay with prefab or modular homes, and only 14.5% wanted to stick with resale homes. 60% of respondents were not interested in downsizing versus 40% who were. 58.5% were interested in selling their existing home to move into something bigger. When looking for a new home, 35% wanted 1,000 to 1,500 square feet, 28% wanted 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, and 18.5% wanted 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. 65% of people preferred a single-story bungalow, 67% preferred a basement versus no basement. Preference to downsizing would be a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom layout or a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom layout for a single detached house at a median cost of $112,500. Preference to upsize was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom floor plan or more, and that would again be a single detached bungalow at a median cost of $265,000.
There's a lot of info in that survey. It's I thought it was a really good survey. Was thinking about, and then I thought better of it because of the election. I wanted to make a committee, just a housing committee, out of 2 members of council, and put applicants out to the public, letters of interest for 2 members of the public, and I think it's probably, if it ain't the biggest issue, it's pretty damn close to being the biggest issue in every town in Ontario, if not Canada. And it certainly is big here. And I would like to see a committee dedicated just to housing. Don't matter which format, but I mean, I'm gonna have to hang off on that, because if somebody else comes in, it could be something totally different. So, but they definitely got something to work with this housing survey for sure. And it's not that we haven't been doing anything. We've been working with Terrace Bay and McCausland Hospital. Nathan had a meeting Friday with a gentleman that sounded pretty positive, pretty good, put it that way. And so things are going to move there, and they're going to move. Housing is going to move everywhere in Ontario, every town, I think. So we got to get our moving on it too. Anybody else got anything to? No.
No, I mean, it was nice to see. I mean, it's sad that more people responded to this than our budget survey. It's nice to see, right?
Oh no, it was nice to see 96 people
yeah, I mean,
respond to it.
It's not a lot of people, but it's
well, that's a lot of
more
people.
More than 30.
It's a lot of people for Schreiber.
Yeah, I agree. So that was good.
In the meantime, Nathan will keep updating it. Okay, number 11, recreation programmer report.
recommendation here that council authorize payment to Bill Skripchuk in the amount of $200 for his last bike presentation during Heritage Days.
I got no problem with that.
No.
Are we gonna get a breakdown on Heritage Days?
For
Finance?
the finances, yeah, certainly, I believe think we were successful in getting a grant for that as well,
Oh,
so,
sweet.
I'll be looking at that as well.
I'm just curious, there was so much going on, right?
Yeah, what are the actuals?
What happened?
Yeah.
Okay, number 12 is the Recreation Festivals Committee meeting minutes, June 13th, June 27th, July 4th, and July 13th. They're all in there. I mean, I know there was some help and everything, but for a small committee, they sure, they knocked it out of the park during Heritage Days, I thought.
Mhm.
Job well done.
Definitely.
Number 13, bylaw enforcement report.
I feel like I say this every time. I have some very specific questions, so can we get it?
Yep, we can put it on the closed session.
Yeah.
Okay, which,
The one that says resolved in court as of July 4th,
right, okay,
and some other ongoing,
okay, just
Issues.
send me,
yeah,
message
just
or
winter's
whatever it is.
coming, it'd be
Yep.
nice, yeah.
Let me know
thanks.
which ones you want
Yeah,
to
for sure.
closed session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything on bylaw? Schreiber Public Library minutes.
Any questions? These are the minutes from June. That was Donna's last meeting as CAO.
Okay, no, that's good. Number 15, Fire Department. See Jan's here if they've got any questions. You see we got a new Fire Department member, Dominic Costa. Welcome him.
Awesome.
One down, 6 to go.
Yeah. And we moved into the new regulations, eh?
Yeah, those came into effect July 1st.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a problem.
Nice, good job. Okay, number 16, Integrity Commissioner report.
Well, this is in the clear, so that's good.
Everybody's seen their reminder for 2022, the second one?
No.
Behave yourself during the election.
Mm.
Okay, Director of Operations report, the Titan GPS's dash camera units.
Recommendation from Director of Operations, the council accept the quote from Titan GPS in the amount of $10,914.75 plus applicable taxes for the supply of units and an annual subscription.
So you believe this is something that must be done this year?
Based on existing liabilities, I think you have to do something.
Like I was saying, all of our equipment are GPS, and it can tell where you're going, where you've been.
Yeah.
It's on every one of our pieces of equipment. It's not to point fingers at anybody or anything, it's just to know what their equipment's doing. Where they've been, it's all time slotted and everything.
We desperately need that information to prove our minimum standards in circumstances that any litigation is filed against us, and it's just very easy for people to file litigation. And
Well, that other one's a perfect example.
yeah.
It's actually a critical piece of equipment that we absolutely need for documentation.
Are we like the only small town that doesn't have this?
Pretty much. It is industry standard. Anybody that has a fleet has these units installed.
I know White River put it in their equipment this year.
Does Terrace have it?
I don't know.
Sure, Terrace.
I believe they do. Marathon definitely has it, and Nipigon has it. Thunder Bay definitely has it.
I mean, I get it, like I understand the reasoning, it's just, the money's kinda, but I guess if it prevents money, I don't know.
I mean, a lot of people don't understand it, and all the stuff flying around town and everything, but what we looked at and talked about in the closed session this evening, we definitely need it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, if you said no to this, you'd be against the township. It's a must tool.
And how does this GPS data get tracked? Is it like similar to the cameras, it all goes to one central thing?
I'll let Tammy answer that.
So GPSs will be on a server, so they're website accessible. Unlike the cameras, the GPS data is saved forever.
Okay.
And accessible forever.
That makes
So
sense.
in this situation where we have to look back at a previous year, the data will always be available. And with this data, I can completely build a timeline to show the events leading up to an event that can prove that we've done everything we possibly could to meet minimum standards.
And just like the cameras, they're only being looked at when something happens.
Correct, yeah. That was a concern from staff, and without going to employee relations as a closed session, something that I've been addressing, and again, it's something that we want to have the focus on, again, for liability related issues. If there's an accident or something, the footage isn't going to be permanent. It's only going to be recording for roughly, I believe, 5 days.
But the GPS data stays for.
The GPS data does stay
Yeah.
forever.
Okay.
So if we would only be taking that dash cam footage and saving it for as a permanent record in the circumstance that there was an incident on that day, we would have to save all the camera footage on that day.
And the dash cam goes to the same server, I'm assuming, or is that a separate thing?
No, it's all in the same,
It's all in
it's
the
all the
same?
same unit.
Okay.
So normally when you have a sander, for example, you would have a computer in the cab that tells you when you turn your sander on and how many tons you put out, and you'd have a winter operations record that would accompany that. We don't have any of that. But with this GPS unit, it would be connected to the rocker switch, so it would at least tell us when the sand is being put out. And then the dash camera confirms that we've got a road cover of sand. So when you go to court, you'd be able to prove that you met your minimum standards with no issues.
The hope
Same
with
as,
this,
sorry, road patrols, everything is
Yeah.
all part of the minimum standard, so we need to have them in the half tons as well to track our road patrols. It's all very important data.
The financial justification is, the hope is that this investment will allow us to then have the data in order to fight any potential litigation against us and provide the evidence that we did what we could to meet minimum standards. This is third-party evidence. It's not coming from us in any way. This is completely separate information of where our vehicles were at a certain time. And it's evidence that can hopefully be used to just throw out those claims that our roads weren't plowed.
I've had specific experience at using the GPS data to rebuild a day 2 years later, and successfully alleviated any kind of case whatsoever. They threw it out before we even got to discovery hearing, because we had such a strong case with the data.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, so we're good to go ahead with it then. Okay. Communications. We'll move into communications. Did any communications jump out? I mean, we got number 5, we may as well take the good. Eves and Marion, thank you card there for the Heritage Days. Well done to Mayor and Council, and to all the to everybody involved. It was fantastic. I definitely like to support support number 11, and that's all the firefighter stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's about it, eh? For
I don't have anything else.
anybody else have anything?
No.
No. Okay, we'll move into, we have no unfinished business, so we'll move into other business, draft compliance audit committee bylaw.
This is something that is required under the Municipal Elections Act, and it needs to be passed before October 1st in an election year. All the neighboring communities have determined that they use each other's clerks in order to fulfill the compliance committee.
Makes sense.
Not a problem. And the other, number 2 is the Thunder Bay District annual conference.
The conference is going to be held September 22nd to 23rd in Thunder Bay.
I can't believe they're having a conference then. Like, I just, unless they're planning on having another one after the election, I don't know.
Yeah, really.
Kinda dumb.
But anyway,
I can't go.
no, you'll be
I'll be working.
you'll be working too, so it'll be Doug, Dan, myself, and Nathan if we. And it's just overnight Thursday. Like Thursday afternoon, overnight Thursday, and Friday I'm home.
I mean, if there's not any real hot button things, I don't think we need to ask people, right?
No, I mean,
You and Nathan, or whatever,
yeah. Yeah,
just you.
I'll find out, Dan. What's that?
I said just you.
I wouldn't mind. I have a lot of my plates coming out.
No, for sure,
Yeah, I
just
don't
me
know.
and Dan or
Yeah.
something, Doug.
Yeah.
I don't know if Doug's not speaking.
I'll get back to you.
Okay. Anyway, I believe that wraps up the meeting, open session. We do have to go back into closed session. So resolution 204. Okay. 205-22, moved by Councilor Morrow, seconded by Councilor Sales, that the closed meeting resume at this time. All those in favor? Carried.
I just have a little question. I'll be back.